Good morning, everyone. Can you please confirm whether I am audible or not?
Yes, sir, you audible.
Yeah, fine. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all on the behalf of Litmania Literature. And as you all already know that we have been conducting a few sessions before this, and Sharukh has also talked about the how to prepare for UGC NET, and he will be continuing with this topic. And the topic that he is going to present today is how to read literary theories for UGC NET. And you see, this literary theory is a kind of integral part of UGC NET, and it is very tricky because suppose if you are reading a novel and they are asking you a question, you have the fair idea. You have a fair idea that okay, there are a certain plot, there are certain characters from where you can get the questions and you can answer that. But when it comes to literary theory, it becomes very tricky and very complex because theories are, especially the post-World War theories, they are very interdisciplinary kind. And they deal with multiple other practices that were happening at that time. So for instance, cultural studies itself, it encompasses many of the other literary theories of that time. So they are very much interrelated. There are many terms, and nowadays what NTA is doing is that they are not asking you the flat questions from literary theory. They are going in detail. Suppose they will not ask you that who coined this term only. Yeah, this is true that they will ask you match the following. That would be easy in literary theory, but then they won't ask you that who has coined this term. Instead, they will say what is the meaning of this term, and they will give you four options, and they appears almost same all the four options. So at that time, your depth knowledge is very important. So keeping that view in mind, Shahrukh has means he is going to present a session right now on literary theory and how to read it, especially for UGC NET, because literary theory is a kind of vast field. So how you are going to narrow it down? So he will be talking on that. So Sharukh is a PhD scholar at EFLU, and he has also qualified JRF. So Sharukh, are you there?
Yeah,
Yeah, fine. So session is all yours. Now you can begin your presentation. Thanks for joining us.
thank you, Sharukh, for your warm welcome and very good morning to all of you. So, as you can see, uh, is my screen visible now in full screen mode?
Not in full
Yes, it
screen,
is,
but
sir.
then it's fine. Means even if it is not full screen, you can go with it. It's visible, I guess.
Okay, fine. Today I'll be talking about how to read literary theory for UGC NET, and for that matter, I will not teach you literary theory, but tell you the things, the ways, the strategy that I myself have applied in my study, so that you can attempt more and more questions from this field. As Sharukh has already pointed out that literary theory, yeah, it's like a scary thing. Most of the time, people even they want to avoid it at any cost, but it has become an integral part of UGC NET exam. And for that matter, I'll be referring to other exams as well, like GATE exam, SET exams, and then various university PG or PhD entrances. So, in a kind of thing, I'll be talking about how you can prepare for literary theory for those exams which are objective based. So, let's start. So, from literary theory, basically, there are two types of questions. First, there is this direct questions. They ask sometimes questions who wrote this
Sorry to
book or
interrupt
what was
you.
that.
Sharukh, have you changed the slide? Are you on slide
Yeah,
number two?
yeah, is not
Yeah,
in changing.
but it's not changing. So what you can do is that come out of your full screen, and then means you can yeah.
Okay,
Now it's visible. Fine.
okay.
Continue.
Uh, so I was talking about that there are basically two types of questions from literary theory. So there is the direct questions, simply which you can attempt with your simple memorization, nothing else. But there are conceptual questions where you have to uh, apply your analytical reasoning, your power of reasoning, and these types of questions are getting nowadays more and more. As you know, all there are types of questions which are based on assertion and reason. So first you are supposed to identify the statement whether they are true or false. Again, you have to identify whether the reason is the correct explanation of the assertion or not. So these type of questions they are asking from conceptual based question where you need to apply your brain, not only your memorization. Okay. So the first thing, whenever you are reading literary theory, you must have a chronological sense. You all must be laughing because nowadays they are asking too much chronological kind of thing, not only in literary theory, but in terms of publications, books, writers. So first thing, you must have a chronological sense. So these are the major theories, and I have written down their timelines, not in the sense strictly, not in the strict sense, because we cannot put the appearance of a particular theory within certain timeline. But yeah, this is the time when that particular theory became popular in the literature or linguistics department. So we can see in that sense, for example, Marxism. It started in the 1940s, we can say, with Communist Manifesto, but it becomes an international phenomenon throughout the world in the 1950s only. So in that kind of sense, you must have first a chronological. So Russian formalism, it became 90s, 20s, then 30s. New criticism, 1940s. Marxism, 1950s. Structuralism, 1950s. And post-structuralism and deconstruction in the 1960s. Okay. Can anybody tell me, is there any difference between post-structuralism and deconstruction? Is any difference there? You can unmute and speak. Let's make the session interactive. That will be more interesting. Anyone? Any guess? Is there actually a difference between post-structuralism and deconstruction? Because we hear these two terms. Okay. Let me tell you, the thing is very simple. Post-structuralism is the bigger thought, school of thought, and deconstruction only a particular category in that thought. The post-structuralism is the movement or theory, we can say, in philosophy, in linguistics, and deconstruction is the post-structuralist approach that Jacques Derrida has propagated. So Derrida called his theory of post-structuralism as deconstruction. So most of the times, what happens that we often identify these two terms similarly. Then reader response theory, 1960s. Feminism, 1960s. Feminism started in the 18th century with Mary Wollstonecraft, but feminism as an international phenomenon, it became popular after the suffrage movement in America in 1960s. So it became an international phenomenon, and women studies, a new field of discipline, a new discipline was incorporated into the academic world, that was women studies, and then started feminism. So 1960s is the highest time of feminism. Then psychoanalytic theory, 1960s, 70s. Postmodernism, 1970s. Then new historicism and cultural materialism, 1980s. Again, these two terms are similar. The only difference is that new historicism is the American approach, we call this, and cultural materialism, the British approach to history, we call this. Like it was propagated by Raymond Williams first, and then there are two writers, Jonathan Dollimore and Alan Silfield. They expanded this term, cultural materialism. Then cultural studies in the 1990s, it became an international phenomenon. and this has, in a sense, devastated the traditional approaches to literature, linguistics, philosophy. In fact, it has blurred the boundary line between disciplines. Then post-colonialism in the 1980s, the race and ethnicity studies, for example, black studies or African American studies in 1980s, then queer theory or LGBT studies, which is quite popular nowadays in 1990s, and eco-criticism or green studies. Green studies is the British name for eco-criticism. It became popular in 1990s. Now, what when you are going for a theory, so first you would have that chronological sense, which theory came after which, then what are the things you are supposed to cover up in a theory. So every theory you read about the origins, where the originators, where the influencers and major influences, okay, and then who are the major theorists or thinkers of that particular theory, then what are the major writings, seminal writings in a particular theory, and then finally what are the major ideas or concepts. Now I have given example, major ideas of each theory, how you are supposed to read. See, I could not cover up, like there are so many theories, so only for each particular point I have given some ideas from a theory, and then I have included some questions as well for your better understanding, that not only having the theory about how to read about theory, but you must have some practical knowledge, like what are the types of questions they are asking. So first you read the what are the assumption or statements propounded by a particular theory. Now I have given the example of Russian formalism. So in this kind of in this way, you are supposed to only note down the major things, not writing too much, because you will not be able to revise everything. There are so many things to cover up. So Russian formalism, they say these things. The essence of formalism is summed up in Slovsky's definition of literature. So he gave definition of literature, that is the sum total of all stylistic devices employed in literary text. So nowadays we find in a particular text figures of speech, so these kind of things or technical things, what are the rhyme, what is this rhyme scheme, what is the meter, these kind of things are covered in Russian formalism. So study of aesthetics effects produced by literary devices, as I pointed out, literary devices, the literary work as an organic unit where formal devices are more important than content. These things was later taken by the new critics as well, so they are in a sense formalist critics. Now, literature as a special use of language, literary and non-literary language. Yeah, the Russian formalists, they divided that there is some difference between what we talk in our daily normal life and the language we write in. So there comes this concept of defamiliarization and the distinction between plot and story. So what was their views? That plot is strictly literary, whereas story is raw material that needs artistic arrangements. Now, then after having the major ideas, then you find out what the key terms. In every theory, some terms are always associated with that particular theory. Now, I have given the example of new criticism. Let's say, for example, there are these terms: affective and intentional fallacy, ambiguity, tension, which was propagated by Alan Tate, then autotelic artifact, which is the concept that the text contains its own meaning. So we don't need to refer to external things like the social context or the biography of the writer. They only limit themselves to text only. So there is that concept of close reading in new criticism. There's the concept of bad critic and good critic, ontology, close reading, paradox, and heresy or paraphrase. These two terms were given by Clint's book. Now, after saying that, I have an example. Okay, so let's read the first question, which was asked in EFLU PhD entrance. That which of the following blurs distinctions among literary, non-literary, and cultural text, showing how all three intersect, share in, and mutually constitute each other. The options are Marxism, Structuralism, Formalism, New Historicism. So, any of you tell me the answer? You can unmute and speak because I cannot see the chat box. Anyone know the answer?
So is it new historicism?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is new historicism. So if you have the basic ideas of new historicism, you will be attend to this question. Then the next question is based on, as I was saying, the major origins and influences. So sometimes uh, a particular theory is influenced by some writers. So new historicism was fundamentally influenced by, now which of these will be the answer? Who was the influencer of new historicism?
B, sir.
No, not correct. Anyone else?
C.
Not yet. Okay, let me tell you the answer. It is Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault's concepts were taken by the new historicists, but Michel Foucault himself was a post-structuralist. So you see how tricky things are in literary theory. Now you'll be thinking about, okay, Foucault, how can? But if you read, like when you identify what are the major influencers behind this particular theory, we identify, okay, Foucault influenced new historicism, you remember that thing. So then the next question, it was asked in UGC net. So you can guess, like these types of questions they ask. Which one of these statements defines the scope of semiotics? So these are the four options. Let's read and decide which can be the answer.
So second one, semiotics is a study of sign systems.
Yeah, absolutely right. So you have the idea of semiotics, then only you will be able to attempt this question. Okay. Then coming to feminist criticism. So when you are having the major ideas of feminist criticism in that way that I pointed out, the major concept of Russian phrenology, you are supposed to do for every theory in that kind of, in that manner. So in feminist criticism, which of the two statements, which of the following two statements must be true? So what will be the answer? Like among A, B, C, D, which two are the right answers that apply to the concepts of feminist criticism?
So A and D.
A and D. Recuperate the female writers ignored by the canon, mostly reject the essentializing of male and female. Yeah, you are absolutely right. That's fine. Then come to the next point. Now, when I was talking about major theories, you should identify who are the major thinkers or writers in a particular theory. So I have given the example of Marxism in that way. So Marxism originated in the works of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. That was in the mid 19th century. Then we come to Soviet social realism. Lenin, Stalin, Trotsky. Of course, these writers, they are not in a kind of theorist, but they are the philosophers who expanded the thoughts of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. So in that kind, we can say like Lenin is associated with Marxism. Then there is this Frankfurt School in the 1920s in Germany. So there were Theodor Adorno, very, very important person, Walter Benjamin, he is also an important theorist, writer, Max Horkheimer, then Herbert Marcuse. Then we have George Lukács, Bertolt Brecht. Bertolt Brecht, he was equally a theorist, a Marxist theorist, as well as a practitioner. Then Antonio Gramsci, Italian Marxist thinker who gave the idea of subaltern, nowadays quite popular. Structuralist Marxism. Now, here you can understand why I was talking about you must have a chronological sense. Now, you see from Marx to Antonio Gramsci, all these things are who are the Marxist thinkers. They are not taking ideas of structuralism. But the thing is, when Louis Althusser or Pierre Macquarie and Lucien Goldman, they came on the scene, structuralism has already occurred. So the thing is, they got the ideas of Marxism and structuralism mixed up. In that way, most of the time, what happens is that one theory intersects with other. Like we have Gayatri Chakrabarti Spivak. So she is a deconstructionist philosopher, then a Marxist, post-colonialist, as well as subaltern or feminist. So many things are there. Like Slavoj Zizek, this person, this modern thinker, you cannot put him in a particular category. So when you are having the chronological sense, okay, structuralism has already become popular on the scene when Louis Althusser was writing. That was why he is a Marxist, but a structuralist at the same time. Then we have among the Englishmen, we have these thinkers who are Marxists like Raymond Williams. Yeah, so popular. He propagated this new historicism and one of the forerunners of cultural studies in Christopher Hill, Christopher Clodwell, E.P. Thompson, Arnold Kettle, Terry Eagleton. Then among the Americans, Frederick Jameson is quite popular. His ideas on postmodernism, then post-Marxism, yeah, this has been a concept which is in a sense a revolt against the traditional Marxist. So Ernesto Laclau and Chantal Mouffe, these two theorists, they have propagated the idea of post-Marxism. Now, so let's again come to some questions that have been asked. So the first question, it was from UGC Net 2018 June. So semiotics originated mainly in the works of two theorists. Among the four options, there must be two theorists who have influence on semiotics. So let's read and try to decide who might be. Charles
A and
Sanders.
C.
Sir, A and C.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. C.S. Page, American linguist and Ferdinand de Saussure. Yeah, but let me tell you one thing that though these two theorists, their influence is semiotics, but the thing is the difference between them. Ferdinand de Saussure, he called his philosophy of linguistics semiology. Yeah, and C.S. Page, he named it semiotics. So in that kind of way, sometimes we get these kind of confusing questions as well in UGC net. You see, they will be giving you matching, and you will be thinking, oh, semiotics may be Ferdinand de Saussure. But if there is the option of CS Page, so semiology should we go with Ferdinand de Saussure. But in these questions, because semiotics and semiology, there is no difference. The difference is only between the terms, nothing else. Like he preferred this term and he preferred that. That is the thing. Then coming to the next question, like when you identify what the major theories, so who among the following is not a reader response critic?
Excuse me, sir. So, what was the answer of the previous question? Semiotics originated mainly in the works of two theorists.
Yeah, it will be Charles Sanders Peirce, A, and Ferdinand de Saussure, C. These two.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Then the next question, who is not a reader response critic? Maud Bodkin, Hans Robert Jauss, Stanley Fish,
Maud Watkin.
Wolfgang. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Maud Bodkin. Say this writer is in archetypal criticism. Yeah. So you know about like who are the archetypal critics. Then only you will be able to attempt. Then this next question was asked in BHUA Mentors 2020. Who among the following is not a Marxist critic? It is very easy because it is on PG level. So Elaine Sowalter, yeah, will know. She is a feminist. And this question, next question, it was asked in NET exam. Which two of the following are associated with deconstruction? Derrida, Raymond Williams, Paul Deman, Jonathan Dollimore.
A and C.
Yeah, absolutely right. Jonathan Dollimore in New Historicism and Raymond Williams in Cultural Materialism. And Paul Deman belongs to Yale Critics. Now, when you now after you identify what the major thinkers or theorists in a particular theory, now when you are supposed to go into deep into some of the famous theorists. Yeah, you are supposed to go into deep because they are asking questions from deep. So when you are reading about theories, first identify yeah, the major influence on that particular theorist. Earlier I was talking about the influences on a particular theory. Now some theories, they are influenced by their some of the writers, previous writers. So Edward Said, he was influenced by Antonio Gramsci and Foucault, the concept of hegemony and Foucault's concept of discourse, and he employed these two concepts in his work Orientalism. Then you identify ideas borrowed from others, reinterpreted, reworked. Yeah, sometimes it happens. In fact, most of the terms that Derrida have coined, the idea was already there. He has only interpreted it or reinterpreted, we can say. So I have given example. Derrida's concept of Pharmacon is taken from Plato. Then Christopher concept of Cora is also from Plato. Then Jonathan Dollimore and Alan Sinfield, these two writers in New Historicism, they have expanded the term cultural materialism. Now, cultural materialism was coined by Raymond Williams. So you must have the clear idea, like cultural materialism is associated with this all these three writers, but the point is it was coined by this but expanded by these two writers. So in this way, you are supposed to have the clear cut idea. Until you have, you will not be able to. You will mess up things, and they ask confusing questions. They ask deliberately. They ask. They confuse the students. Then Sandra Gilbert and Susan Hoover, these feminist writers, they have a feminist interpretation of Harold Bloom anxiety of influence, and they name it anxiety of authorship. Then Gayatri Chakraborty's Spivak's subaltern concept. Can the subaltern speak? We know about that. That was taken from Antonio Gramsci. And then concept of Foucault's Panopticon. Jeremy Bentham was the British philosopher. He gave the idea of Panopticon first, and Foucault, he expanded it. Okay, can any of you tell me what is the idea of Panopticon? Anyone having
Sir is
any idea?
watching you, sir. Like,
Yeah, exactly. So the modern example, today's example is the CCTV camera. You are under CCTV surveillance. So panopticon is like you will not be able to see who are watching you, but you are being watched. That is the thing. Then after that, then concepts associated with, yeah, you will be able to attempt the questions, particularly matching questions they gave. Like there are the theories and then ideas. So some of the ideas which has not been coined that by particular writer or theories, but like their idea is most of the time associated with that particular thinker. So you must identify. I have given only two examples. You must identify others as well. Like Foucault, the concept of discourse is always goes with Monsieur Foucault, and then the concept of ideology, Althusser. Then his or her own ideas or terms. What are the terms that has been coined by a particular theorist? I'll be talking about this later. Then famous quotes, yes, some of the sayings by certain writers, these have become very, very popular, and you are supposed to remember. Like Derrida has said, there is nothing outside the text. Then Frederick Engel's idea, ideology is false consciousness. Then Jacques Lacan's idea, the unconscious is structured like language. Sometimes these questions are asked. Now, I have taken two examples from UGC net. Let's read the first question. Who said the following? Then there is this quotation: discursive practices are not purely and simply modes of manufacture of discourse. They take shape in technical ensembles, in institutions, in behavioral schemes, in types of transmission, dissemination, in pedagogical forms that both impose and maintain them. So there are four options: Rolla Barthes, Michel Foucault, Homi Bhabha, and then Gayatri Chakraborty is speaker. So who will be the who is
So
that?
is it Foucault? Like this quote has been mentioned.
So, Spivak, Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak, I guess.
Mm, well,
Marx, sir.
somebody says Michel Foucault. That is the right answer. Now, if you remember, Foucault has given the definition of discourse, and he has used these two words: discursive practices. So even if you are not familiar with the whole quotation, even if you remember certain things like discursive practices or the concept of discourse is associated with Michel Foucault, so you can assume that that might be the answer. Then coming to the next point, next question, which writer applied the term cultural poetics to his own critical contribution to make literature and arts as part of social practice? Stephen Greenblatt, Mikhail Bakhtin, Jonathan Dolimo, Raymond Williams. So all these four writers are from New Historicism. So who like applies the term of cultural poetics to his own critical?
Greenwald, sir.
Yeah, Greenblatt,
Greenwald.
absolutely right, absolutely right. So you see, as I was talking, like Saussure has named his approach to linguistics as semiology. So Stephen Greenblatt, he is a new historicist, but he has preferred the term of cultural poetics to his own thought. So that's the thing. There are certain thinkers they have done this kind of thing. So you are supposed to identify. Now, when you are you are reading like what are the major terms, and in that way, you first identify like the term was introduced in which text or introduced by whom. Yeah, these kind of questions they ask in exam. Like Alice Walker term humanist or humanism, it was coined in his short story, in her short story, Coming Apart. Then these four terms I have explained only to show you how you are supposed to make notes. Like don't write too much things. Gynocriticism, if you write let's say 1 page or 2 pages, you will not be able to uh, revise at the last moment. Revision is important in exam, competitive exam as well, not your semester exam. You can expand the term gynocriticism, writing about 2 pages, 3 pages, that's fine. So let's try to understand literature feminism. So, which is basically meaning this is a French term which means in English feminine writing. So, it was a term which was used by Helen Sixu, and she refers to a new or experimental kind of writing, not restricted to women. Now, try to understand this. Often we think like feminist, so like a male cannot be a feminist. This is wrong. Or as she is pointing out, like literature feminist is not necessarily by women writer only, but male can be writing. But the feature would be like in which phallocentric divisions between nature and culture, man and woman, or other things that kind would be broken down. So there would be no difference between man and woman, like man is superior, woman is inferior, this kind of thing, or nature is preferable and culture is it must be subversive, not that kind of interesting thing. So this kind of thing will not be. So in the only 3 lines, what I have done, like what is the meaning of the term, who has coined, and what is actually meaning. Then gynocriticism. It is a term adapted from gynocritics. So gynocritics was the term which was invented by Elaine Showalter, not gynocriticism. The thing is, gynocriticism then came as a concept after. So she distinguishes feminist study of writings but by women. Earlier, we would do feminist studies of writings by men. For example, we read about wife of Bath in Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. So what Elaine Showalter suggests that instead of reading the representation of women by male writers, we should focus on the we should focus on, excuse me, just Sorry for the interruption. Yeah. So Elaine Salter, she is suggesting that we should read about female characters by female writers. Then the concept of defamiliarization, uh, which is the translation of this word "vostraneni," which means making strange. It is a term which was used by Viktor Shklovsky, and he is a Russian formalist, and he refers to like the distinguishing function and effect of literary works. As I was talking about the uh, literary language, like the Russian formalist, they emphasize like there is this special use of literary language, and this makes familiar thing unfamiliar or making the habitual seem fresh or strange. So, literary works they present the familiar things which are quite around us, we see every day, but they present it in a new way. So the known things seem unknown things. Then the concept of polyphony. It was a term which means uh, many voiced, and it is used by Mikhail Bakhtin. So the idea is that a literary text is not univocal or single voiced. There is not only a single voice but multiple voices. So this is the thing you understand. And the term polyphonic is basically a term from music which is used to describe independent melodies sounds simultaneously in contrast to homophonic music. Now, I have given the example of Sigmund Freud, how you identify what are the major terms that have been propagated by a particular theorist or coined by him. So Sigmund Freud, we have these all these ideas. He has given so many ideas as well. Like Jacques Derrida also has given so many ideas, given so many terms. So in Sigmund Freud, we have the idea of death drive, which is also called destructive drive, and then again known as thanatos. Then sexual drive or eros, which is libido. Then stage of child development, oral phase, anal phase, phallic phase. In his interpretation of dream, there are these two ideas: condensation and displacement. Then the mind, three parts of mind: unconscious, conscious, subconscious. Then human psyche, ego, superego, id. Freudian sleep. Freudian sleep is what we basically call sleep of the tongue. Like there was something you did not want to say, but it gets out. Then the concept of Oedipus complex, Electra complex, we are all are quite familiar with all these two terms. Um, then latent content, manifest content in dream, over determination, phallic primacy, phantasm, penis envy, which works in girls. Like this is according to Sigmund Freud. Then castration complex or castration anxiety, which is related to boys. Then pleasure principle and reality principle, and scopophilia, which is pleasure in looking, which is related to the feminist idea of male gaze. And there is this writer, uh, who is the writer? I'm forgetting her name. Visual pleasure and narrative cinema. Laura Mulvey. Yeah, Laura Mulvey. She has given this idea of male gaze. Then screen memories, sublimation, uncanny, and return of the repressed. Having said that, let's try to solve some of the questions. So the first is very easy. I think it was asked in BHU mentors. These two terms, synchronic and diachronic, were coined by. Like this question is direct question, which you remember just who coined the term. So who will be the answer?
Yeah.
No, not A.
See, Ferdinand is also.
Yeah, Ferdinand is also. These two terms in linguistics, synchronic and diachronic study of language. Then the next question, it was asked in Aligarh Muslim University MA entrance. the concept of negritude is associated with.
Amicism.
Yeah, that is quite right. You know all about. Then next question from EFLU PhD entrance.
Aporia.
Yeah, yeah, you are quite fast. Then this question is important. What is the term? Like they have instead of this has they have in indirect instead of asking you the direct term, they have given the explanation of the term and they have asked what applies. What is the term? A Rolla Barthes uses to speak of the text that challenge the reader to participate in creating them rather than just consume them. Readerly text, mythical text, writerly text, textual text. Anyone know the answer of this question?
Sir, yes, sir.
A, not A.
So writerly
Sir,
text. C.
C.
Yeah, absolutely right. Writerly text. And the opposite is readerly text, which we traditionally used to do earlier, like just consuming what the writer is saying. So writerly text is like we reader also contribute in the making of the text. Then these questions, it is a bit advanced kind of question, not that much easy. I can say the theoretical term biopolitics is most associated with the work of. So you see, some of the terms are associated with certain writers: Frederick Jameson, Michel Foucault, Edward Said, Homi Bhabha.
Michel Foucault.
Yeah, absolutely right. Biopolitics. This term is associated with Michel Foucault, and after this Corona thing, we understand the concept of biopolitics. Now, these two questions are from GATE exam. So not only UGC NET, I have taken examples from majority of the exams so that you can have proper idea how to read literary theory. Then let's read that question, 26th question. The following is a passage about O.V. Vijayan's The Legends of Khasak. And there is this description. And they are asking, the analysis presented in the description is congruent with which one of the following concepts proposed by Mikhail Bakhtin? Chronotype, dialogism, carnivalex, polyphony. So you see, like when you read the question, you might be thinking, okay, they are asking something from this work only. But the thing is, they have given example of a work, and they have analyzed it, written down some lines, and they are asking like this analysis matches with what concept of that particular theory. So this comes under the category of analytical question. You see, you have, huh? Not carnival.
Isn't it carnival?
No. See, when you are attempting this question, like you must have the idea of all the four options. What is chronotype, what is dialogism, what is carnivalex, what is polyphony. Then only you will be able to attend. So you see in GATE exam how in roundabout way they are asking questions from literary theory. So you can just understand how deep. Okay. Anybody else?
I guess.
Sir, yes, sir.
Okay. Let me explain first the four terms. Chronotype, if I explain, you will be able to answer. Chronotype is basically the idea of time and place in a setting, in a novel setting. So, of course, this is the answer. The novel is set in time. They are talking about 20th century, and they are describing the place as well. So, if you only remember, like chronotype is time and place, nothing else. You just remember this thing, you will be able to attempt this question. But you must have the idea of chronotype. So, chronotype is the answer. And then the next question is from GATE exam, where they are asking what is an implied reader. So let's decide which can be the answer.
Sir, what is the answer of this previous question?
Yeah, it is chronotype. Chronotop basically means it was propagated by Mikhail Bakhtin that the time and place in a novel, in a fictional work. So the analysis talks about the time and place of that particular work. So it's chronotop.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And the next question: what is an implied reader?
So
Huh?
C.
What? Yeah, absolutely right. So you know about what is an implied reader, and you are able to attempt the question. Hypothetical reader, not the actual reader that the text addresses. Okay. Let's try to solve other questions. These all are from NET exam. So matching, this is quite popular nowadays in UGC NET. They are giving so many matching. Then terms, we have terms in the left column, in the right column we have theories.
Second one is the answer. Second.
Yeah,
One.
so
Second option.
super reader is Michael Ricotere. Yeah, B biopower is Michel Foucault. B college is Claude Levi Strauss, and chronotop Mikhail Bakhtin. Yeah, absolutely right. Now, Lang and Perel, these two terms are repeatedly they ask in so many exams. So what is the meaning of Lang in social linguistics?
Or
Yeah, absolutely right. Language in the abstract sense. Then these questions are direct questions. You remember what was Gramsci's term for cultural consensus supporting capitalism? Monopoly, ideology, discourse,
Fourth,
hegemony.
hegemony.
Yeah,
hegemony.
yeah, right. Okay. Then coming to writings, what are the major writings in a particular theory? So you remember first the seminal text of each theory. I have given the example of new criticism. So we have these popular text in new criticism. So they may ask like this work is associated with which school of thought, and they will give four options. So J.C. Ransom, he has written this book New Criticism. Clint Brooks, the well-wrought art studies in the structure of poetry. Then William Emerson's Seven Types of Ambiguity. Then I. Richards, Principles of Literary Criticism and Practical Criticism, I study in literary judgment. Then William Winsett and Monroe Beardsley, The Viral Icon, which contains these two essays, Intentional Fallacy and Affective Fallacy. Now, you remember the works of theorists in chronological order. Yeah, because chronology has become, it seems like it is too much important as they are asking questions. I am tracing the questions every time, so they are asking too much chronology. So it is better like if you are a beginner, you remember from the beginning in chronological order. That will help you. Then remember the full title. Your subtitle is important. Sometimes they ask. This time in West Bengal set they asked these questions of practical criticism. What was the subtitle? So I study in literary judgment. This was the answer. Then certain writers are very very important. Like they have become so popular in literary theory or in our department. Like you are supposed to remember like almost all of their works, their major works as well as remember their minor works. They ask, and Raymond Williams is among them. Terry Eagleton, Michel Foucault, Jacques Derrida, Stephen Greenblatt, Edward Said, Gayatri Chakravarti Isabella. So these are some of the writers. You cannot skip them. If you skip them, you'll be in trouble. You will not be able to like attempt most of the questions. And I have given the example of Raymond Williams only, his major writings. So these are the writings you see. We remember only four or five, but he has written so many books. Culture and Society, 1780, 1950. Cultural Materialism, Keywords. Now they may give the example. So this question like keywords and what is the subtitle. So a vocabulary of culture and society. The sociology of culture, the long revolution, the country and the city, resources of hope, the English novel from Dickens to Lawrence, Marxism and literature, base and superstructure in Marxist cultural theory, communications, television, technology and cultural form, decoding advertisement, ideology and meaning in advertising. So sometimes what they do, they give list of writings and ask you which is not written by this writer or this theory. So they, in that question, they may give this kind of question, television or decoding advertisement, and like nobody remembers. Yeah, Raymond Williams or Chakraborty Spivak, they are important. You cannot skip their even their minor writings, you see. Then let's try to again solve some questions. I have given this example to make you understand it clearly. So we have this matching names of books and their writers. Mad Woman in the Attic.
The
The third option. Option third.
Okay. So the Mad Woman in the Attic is it was by Sandra Gilbert and Susan Guba. The Wretched of the Earth, Franz Fanon. Shakespeare Negotiation, Stephen Greenblatt. Is there a text in this class? Stanley Fish. So you see, this type of question is quite easy, and you can just depend on your simple memorization. But yeah, you are supposed to remember. You are not like supposed to mess up things with writers and writings. They are asking. Then again, that next question is from UGC Net. We have again writers and writings.
fourth.
Sir, I guess second option.
Okay, I'm matching the writers and writings. You see which is the answer. Homi Bhabha, The Location of Culture, Geoffrey Hartman, Saving the Text, Edward Said, Culture and Imperialism, and Julia Kristeva, Desire in Language. Okay, again, let's try to remember the writers and their works. So, what? I'm not able to hear you clearly. Okay, let me tell you the answers. So Edward Said, Culture and Imperialism, we know. Terry Eagleton, Illusions of Postmodernism, Francis Malhand, Contemporary Marxist Criticism, and K.M. Newton, Theory into Practice. So you see some of the writings here are quite not that much popular, we can say, in that sense, like not everybody know about them, but they ask. We have Edward Said, Terry Eagleton, that we have two writers who are not that much popular, but yeah, they are important. Then again, the next question we have from UGC Net again.
Fourth, sir.
Next question. Okay, let's see. Image, music, text. This is by Rolla Barth. Why Marx was right by Terry Eagleton. The Mirror and the Lamp is by M.H. Abrams, and Culture and Society by Raymond Williams. Okay, so I was talking about seminal work. So after you remember all the important works, nowadays they are going deeper. They are asking questions from the text. So there are certain writings which have become so much important, and nowadays, keeping the view, the trend in UGC Net, you are supposed to read the text. The text itself, not about the text, but the text itself. Yeah, if you have time, then go and read about these texts. You must read the line by line. So Jacques Derrida structures sign and play in the discourse of human sciences. And these are the texts which are suggested in most of the university, you know. Rolla Barthes, The Death of the Author. Michel Foucault, What is an Author? Jean Baudrillard, Simulacra and Simulations. then Gayatri Chakravarti spoke, Can the Subaltern Speak? If you have time, you remember this text. And you can identify some other texts as well, which have become so much important. Okay. Based on that, let's see some questions. For first one from West Bengal set, and this is this quotation. And who said this? So it is about time that criticism and philosophy acknowledged the disappearance or the death of the author. So Jacques Lacan, Michel Foucault, Michel Foucault. This quotation is
Foucault.
from What is an Author?
1969.
Michel Foucault is the answer. So the thing is, Michel Foucault has given the idea of disappearance of the author, and Roland Barthes has given the concept of death of the author. Quite similar, both are quite similar, but this is like tricky. Here, these type of question you must use some kind of your brain. Like sometimes they confuse you. We don't have the concept of Roland Barthes, but Roland Barthes has given also the death of the author, but the disappearance of the author. This term, this phrase has been used by Michel Foucault. Then the next question is why? Yeah, Baudrillard. Yeah. If you remember, he had written a book, and that title of the book is "The Gulf War Did Not Take Place." So it's interesting. And the next question is from GATE exam again, and we have the these questions. They have given this quotation. A text is made of multiple writings drawn from many cultures and entering into mutual relation of dialogue, etc., etc. And instead of asking you who said this, they have asked.
Date of author.
They have asked like.
Roland Barthes.
Yeah, Roland Barthes. Now again, you must remember Roland Barthes belongs to which of the school? Reader response, formalism, post-structuralism, or new criticism?
Post-structuralism.
Yeah,
Post-structuralism.
yeah, you all are absolutely right. So you see how, in a roundabout way, they are asking questions. So Roland Barthes is both structuralism and post-structuralism. You remember?
Yes, it stands as a bridge between structuralism
Exactly.
and post.
In his earlier phase, he was structuralist, but when he is giving the concept of death of the author and birth of the reader, then he shifts to post-structuralism. All these are the books that I read you. You may go through these, and these will help you in understanding, in identifying the terms, the concepts, the writers, the writings. So Mary Clark's literary theory, a guide for the perplexed. Yeah, we students are really perplexed, puzzled for literary theory, and it is aptly named. And side by side, she has written key terms in literary theory. So these two books are complementary. Then Peter Berry, Beginning Theory, Charles Bressler, Literary Criticism, Introduction to Theory and Practice. Then Jonathan Fuller. Jonathan Fuller belongs to structuralism, structuralist poetics. Then he has written this literary theory, a very short introduction. Then Patricia Wow, Oxford Guide to Literary Theory and Criticism. This book is a much kind of advanced level. If you are a beginner, I suppose like you'll not be able to understand that much this book. So after you read some of the books, preliminary books, then you go to that book, that will be fine. Then Sarah Armstrong, Literary Theory, a complete. This is amazing book. Even if you are a fresh beginner, you don't have no idea about literary theory, you start with this book, I suppose you will have your preliminary knowledge in theory. Then Dr. Chris Barker, the Sage Dictionary of Cultural Studies. Yeah, this is dictionary, but important. He has given certain terms and the writer. So there you will be able to what are the ideas associated. He has given in that way. He has given the name of the theories, then what are the major writings and the terms associated with, and he has also written few lines. So that book is also fine. And that's all. Thank you all. I hope this will help you in preparation.
Thank you so much, Sharukh.
Yeah. If you have any queries, questions, you may ask now.
Yes, if participant have any question, any doubt, you can ask. There is a question in chat box which is pretty common. Few of the students have asked it, but then that is off topic. I will come back to it later. Sheila has asked, what is Derrida's concept of pharmacon? So Sheila, are you there? Means what's your idea about pharmacon? I mean, you are just familiar with the text, or you know anything about it? Or Sharukh, have you mentioned this term in your PPT, pharmacon?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
See,
you
I
can
have
also.
mentioned many things, but I have not explained because it's not possible
Yes,
to cover up in a single session. And I have
exactly.
only showed you the way you are supposed to read. As I said earlier, like I'm not teaching it literary theory, but showing you the way how you should go about that. You will be understand, remember, you will be able to understand and remember things. The Pharmacon concept is basically that the concept of poison and cure. You see, that's concept contradictory ideas where we see the idea of trace, like the concept of the earlier things. So that is the idea, and it was propagated by Plato, like a tragedy in a sense. It is fine, like it's making her cry, but it's at the way par gets hurts. So that's where that's the thing. Like pharmacon is cure as well as its poison. That's the thing you read in detail.
Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of new term. Perhaps that's why Sheila is confused. And yeah, there are possibilities that they will ask you this question in the next UGC NET examination, because they are almost done with the all the other terms coined by Derrida, like polysemic, or the logocentrism, phonocentricism, and so on and so forth. So yes, you should read this pharmacon term, as
Yeah.
Sharukh has already said that Derrida has actually borrowed this term from Plato's dialogue. Okay, he has written this concept in Phaedrus. So the contradictory nature of a speech. So like we say that language is never innocent. So there is a power politics also working behind a language that has been explained by Foucault. But Derrida is more concerned about that every statement, written or spoken, is a lie. Why it is a lie? It is lie because in the very use of words, I have to pretend that there is not any complexity behind everything I am saying. But actually there is complexity. So we assume that what we are saying or writing is simple, direct, and understood. But then there is contradiction in that language, whatever we are saying. That is actually what Sharukh said, that there will be a remedy as well as poison. So a language or a sentence acts in much similar way. So there is this contradiction in every language, and that's how he came up with this term polysemic, or the difference, or the binary opposition in a language. So whenever there is a black, there will be white. If someone is tall, then there will be dwarf. So that kind of thing is this pharmacon. I hope it is clear now. Now, one
Yeah, I
question.
can see people are asking so many questions about EFLU
Yes,
PhD.
exactly. That was about I was about to ask you.
So
Yeah,
this is not the session. I will not be
but
able
then
to
yeah,
talk about
means
those
you
things.
can
You have
just
so many
give
queries. I
them
understand.
the general idea, Sharu. What was the procedure at that when you have qualified?
What? Sorry.
I'm saying that you can just give them the general idea that what were the criteria when back then in 2020 when you have qualified EFLU examination. So you can share your
Uh,
experience.
well, talking about the EFLU PhD entrance, they ask questions which are quite modern, and literary theory is very, very important in EFLU. Uh, they give emphasis on literary theory, so you must read in deep literary theory. Sometimes they ask questions like longer to 13 or 14 lines as well, like difficult than UGC net. So you can just think like how they are asking about questions, this kind of thing.
I mean, it will be objective if I'm not wrong, or it will be subjective.
Yeah, it will be objective.
Okay, so
See,
the thing is
these
that.
are general queries.
Mhm.
Yeah, these are general queries. You will see if you see the prospectus only. You see, you go through the prospectus and you will know all these things. What are the procedures to get into?
Mhm. So means even if you are qualified NET or JRF, you have to go through this process of entrance and then the interview, and only then you will be getting selected there.
Exactly.
Okay, fine. So perhaps last time they did something upside down.
Yeah, the last time it was due to this pandemic that this is the first time happening in the entire history of EFLU that they did not conduct entrance exam, meaning that
Oh,
they exempted NET JRF candidates from appearing in the entrance. But even before that, even I was a JRF already. Then I had to appear for the entrance. This happened only this time due to the pandemic, and in the upcoming time. In some institutions JRF candidates are being exempted, so that option is up to the institution.
okay, so I hope that it is very clear to Barkha and Paulami who have asked this question. If you have any further question, you can ask in the group itself, in the Telegram group. You can post your queries if you want further information or explanation of anything related to the PhD entrance of EFLU. Okay, then Sharukh, thank you so much for joining this session. It was very fruitful session, like you have said. You have means the PPT. PPT is sometimes very important because only means it actually carries the meaning when you are speaking about the PPT. At the same time, you are not just reading the PPT. So that's what you did actually. You have not only read that, but you have means came up with plethora of other terms which were associated with it. So it was very exhaustive. Your PPT was very exhaustive and very well prepared, and that has actually helped the students. So the students were also asking for the PPT, but then I will like to inform you that this video will be uploaded on YouTube, so you can watch there. But then we won't be able to provide the PPT. So you can just think that someone is working very hard to make such PPTs. So you can watch that video on YouTube, but sorry that I won't be able to provide that PPT to you, or either I'm not going to share it on Telegram group. But then if the video is there on YouTube, you don't have to worry. So you can watch the video anytime. Thank you so much, Sharukh, for this session. I hope to listen, and even the participant would like to listen more from you in the upcoming sessions, and we will plan something means based upon this, either on PhD examination or something related to UGC NET, or you can also deal with a particular theory, for instance, means a particular like post-structuralism or structuralism, and go in detail with that. So that's what we are expecting in the upcoming session. So thank you so much, all the participants. Thank you so much, Sharukh, Himanshi, Mahin, and Priya. Krishna is also there. So all of you are the admin of Litmania and the participant, of course, because without them there would have been no group, or there would not have been such a fruitful session, because that actually encourages us that okay, there are participants. That's why we are conducting. Otherwise, if you won't be there, we would stop it right here. So thank you so much for joining, everyone. So with this, I would like to end this session.
Thank you.